In 588 BC, Jerusalem was one of the most protected cities of the ancient world. With its imposing walls, 12 meters high and thick, it seemed impregnable. The city was a hub of commerce and culture, with a population of 75,000 people living in relative safety. Jerusalem's walls had withstood numerous attacks over the centuries, and its inhabitants believed that the city was protected by God's hand, as a reflection of the covenant between the Jews and their Lord. Despite this confidence, the city was strategically placed between two great powers, Babylon and Egypt. The control of Jerusalem meant control of the trade routes connecting the continents. Thus, both Babylon and Egypt fought for supremacy in the region. Egypt, under the pharaoh's leadership, had a significant interest in keeping Jerusalem within its alliance, because a strong Jerusalem represented a line of defense against Babylon. Nebuchadnezzar II, the king of Babylon, knew that if he did not take control of Jerusalem, Egypt would be able to use the city as a base of military and commercial operations. Through a combination of military strength and political cunning, Nebuchadnezzar began to act against Jerusalem. His strategy was not merely to conquer the city by brute force, but to undermine its resistance over time. The siege of Jerusalem would begin with a psychological tactic, where Nebuchadnezzar suggested a temporary alliance, offering peace that seemed beneficial to Jerusalem. In 605 BC, Nebuchadnezzar surrounded Jerusalem with his forces, but instead of directly attacking, he made an apparently generous offer to King Jehoiakim: "Give me some of your young nobility to be educated in Babylon, and I will leave your city in peace." King Jehoiakim, perhaps underestimating the threat or trusting in divine protection, accepted the offer. This peace moment was, in reality, the first step in the city's downfall. Nebuchadnezzar didn't just want hostages, he wanted to control the future of Jerusalem. By taking the brightest young people, including Daniel, Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah, he ensured that the next generation of Jewish leaders would be raised in Babylon under his direct influence. Nebuchadnezzar's idea was clear: by removing the leaders and educating them according to Babylonian values and ideals, he would weaken Jerusalem's ability to recover. It wasn't a military strike, it was a psychological blow that would undermine Jerusalem's confidence in its own independence. However, the blow didn't stop there. By accepting the offer, Jehoiakim, unknowingly, declared himself a vassal of Nebuchadnezzar. He surrendered Jerusalem's autonomy, but without realizing it, he would accept the humiliation that would come in the following years. This would mark the beginning of a series of events that would culminate in the complete destruction of Jerusalem. With Jehoiakim's death, his son Jeconiah ascended to the throne of Jerusalem in 597 BC. At just 18 years old, the young king faced a powerful empire and growing discontent among the people of Jerusalem. The relationship with Babylon, which had already been tense, reached its limit when Nebuchadnezzar imposed heavy tribute on the city, generating dissatisfaction. At the same time, Egypt attempted to intervene in support of Jerusalem, promising military strength against Babylon. However, this help never materialized, and Egypt proved incapable of stopping Babylon's rise. In a desperate maneuver, Jeconiah rebelled against Nebuchadnezzar, believing that Egypt would support him, but the pharaoh withdrew quickly. When Nebuchadnezzar learned of the rebellion, he reacted decisively. In March of 597 BC, with a full army, the Babylonian king marched on Jerusalem. This time, there would be no negotiations, no offering of hostages, no concessions. The city would be taken. The siege began with intense pressure, but what was most surprising was how quickly Jeconiah surrendered. In an unexpected move, he opened the gates of Jerusalem and surrendered to Babylon. Instead of resisting to the end, Jeconiah accepted his fate, delivering his city and his people into Babylonian control. The surrender was a significant psychological defeat for Jerusalem, showing just how vulnerable the city truly was. After Jeconiah's surrender, Nebuchadnezzar took the young king captive, along with his family and many of the Jerusalem elite. The city was looted, and part of the sacred temple utensils were taken to Babylon as trophies of victory. However, Nebuchadnezzar was not satisfied with this. Instead of completely destroying Jerusalem, he employed a tactic he had already used imposed on other cities mass deportation. In 597 BC, about 10,000 people were taken to Babylon, including soldiers, artisans, intellectuals, and nobles, leaving only the poor behind. This move was calculated to weaken the city irreparably. Nebuchadnezzar appointed Zedekiah, Jeconiah's uncle, as king of Jerusalem, but he was nothing more than a puppet ruler under Babylon's control. For the next 11 years, Zedekiah would maintain the appearance of a ruler, but his actual authority was minimal. Babylon ruled, and he merely obeyed. However, Jerusalem's humiliation was not complete. While the city was ruled by a weak leader, the population began to suffer, especially the poor, who struggled to survive amid the scarcity and heavy taxes imposed by Babylon. Yet, Jerusalem's pride was not entirely crushed. After 11 years of submission, Zedekiah made the fatal mistake. Under popular pressure and false promises of help from Egypt, he rebelled against Nebuchadnezzar, defying the Babylonian Empire once again. Nebuchadnezzar, now furious, prepared to destroy Jerusalem once and for all. In 588 BC, the Babylonian siege resumed with an unrelenting force. Nebuchadnezzar surrounded Jerusalem with a new wall of security, ensuring that no one could enter or leave the city. The city, with its food supplies exhausted, was isolated and left to die slowly. Hunger began to devastate the population, forcing people to resort to extreme measures. The situation deteriorated quickly and the suffering intensified. The siege was so efficient that the city's walls began to crumble under the weight of time and wear. Finally, on July 18, 586 BC, the walls of Jerusalem gave way and the city was invaded. Zedekiah attempted to flee but was captured, and his sons were executed before his eyes. He was blinded and taken captive to Babylon, where he would spend the rest of his days remembering the destruction he had brought upon his own people. The city was looted, Solomon's temple was destroyed, and its treasures were taken to Babylon. Jerusalem, the great city of Israel, was left in ruins, and the Jewish people endured one of the greatest blows in their history.